Hello, let's install Paladin Cloud. We'll be starting from having connected into a configured EC2 instance. If you haven't already done that, you'll want to check out our prerequisite video where we walk through having a VPC, setting up an installation role, and configuring the EC2 instance. Once connected to the instance, our first step is going to be to clone down the GitHub repository for Paladin Cloud. Once everything's been cloned, we'll change directories into CE. Up next is grabbing the latest release, which you could find on the releases page of the GitHub repository. As of this video, that's 3.0, so we'll go ahead and check out that tag. Next, we'll navigate to the installer directory so we can begin configuring the installation. Now we want to make a copy of default.local.py in the settings directory that we can then name local.py and begin configuring. Open settings/local.py in your preferred editor. You might want to use Vim or Vi. I'll be using Nano for this demonstration. You can customize the name prefix here if you would like, but usually the first thing you're going to edit is the VPC settings. We're going to use the values from whichever VPC we decided to install to. Here, I navigate to the default VPC and then copy the ID and then paste that into my editor. We'll also need to enter information on the CIDR block we're using and 2 subnet IDs from different availability zones. Make sure you don't forget to grab the CIDR block information like I did here at first and enter that in. This information makes sure that all the different assets created by the installer are going to be installed in the proper VPC and everything can talk to each other. Below this section, we have an area for defining custom resource tags. For this install, I'm doing it via HTTP without using a special SSL certificate, so the defaults here are going to be fine. I will need to update the Cognito settings. For email, you'll want to use an address that you can receive email at. That's where your username and temp password will arrive. And for domain, don't use any capitals or the word Cognito. Under authentication, we're using method 3, the attached role that we created earlier. So all we need to configure in this setting is to add in the region that we want to install in. You do want the region and not the availability zone, so make sure it ends with a number and not a letter. Next, we'll add our first account. This should be the account that you've installed into. We'll want to grab the account ID, which we could copy over from AWS, and then enter in the account name. The settings below this are around configuring the database, ECS, and Elasticsearch. We'll just use the defaults here, but if you ever need to fine-tune your instance, this is where you could come in and adjust those settings to your specific needs. In addition, there's settings for configuring the mail server, how often you want things to run, and then you can define your organization's mandatory tags. The last sections are on batch configuration, Active Directory configuration, and auto fix configuration. We'll go ahead and just leave those the default. We'll go ahead and save this and close it out. And now we're ready to install. The install command is sudo python3 manager.py install. The installer is going to start by running a series of checks to make sure everything is configured right, all the permissions are correct. This will take a few minutes to do all the checks, but don't step away just yet. There are some spots where you may need to enter some information. For this installation, we're using option 3, so we'll enter 3 here and be good to go. If you want to use one of the other authentication methods, check out our documentation. For the default setup that we've been using, this should be the only thing we need to enter. I still recommend staying around until step 9, just to make sure that all the checks have cleared. If you do run into some error here, please check out our troubleshooting guide in the documentation or join our Discord channel and ask for help. We'd be glad to assist. Here in step 9, things are starting to install, but this is going to take a while. I'll use the magic of recording to speed this up, but expect 20 to 30 minutes. It's a good time to step away and grab a coffee before checking back in. Once the installation completes, you should see output that looks similar to this. The main thing you're going to want to notice here is that Paladin Cloud URL. We're going to use this in the next step to connect in and view our Paladin Cloud dashboard. During the installation time, it's common for the connection to disconnect if you've walked away and didn't keep the connection awake. If that happens, no worry, you can just reconnect in and run the status command to get this output listed again. If you did get an error, please check out our documentation or join our Discord server for help. In the next video, we'll take a look at connecting into this URL from within our VPC.